Everyone. We are going to be taking a look at some student examples of first paragraphs. And these are rough drafts. They have some errors to them, but it's just to kind of show you some things that you can potentially do in your first paragraphs, some things to avoid, especially making sure that you're proofreading. So as you can see in this first one, right off the bat, there's the red squiggly line under this is supposed to be learning. So just make sure that you're paying attention to things like that before you turn in your rough drafts. Like if you're typing in Word, we'll let you know if you misspelled the word. So that lets me know right away student didn't proofread. But one thing I wanted to show you about this particular paragraph is that I thought they did a good job connecting with the audience. So right off the bat, cover up. Your shirt's too short. Your clothes are too tight. Sound familiar? If any one of you has ever been dress coded before, or have been told that your outfit's inappropriate in any way, form, or fashion, this is going to create a connection to you. And so they feel like they did a really, really good job here doing that. As you go on to correct the misspelled word there, expressing themselves through clothing is frowned upon in school systems. Well, not exactly here, because students are encouraged, but there are more restrictions. So here I might say you might want to change that sentence to something where you're talking about how students can express themselves, but they are severely restricted within the school systems. Females are reminded how they should alter how they are dressed because of how males react. Some males cannot dress how they truly want to either. Schools should take away their dress codes because they tend to shame students, create an imbalance of gender norms, and target females, robbing them of any freedom to express themselves through clothing. That's their thesis. It's a pretty decent thesis. One thing that I would say to correct though is in the paragraph they talk about how some boys can't dress how they want to as well. And so it's kind of like, well, you've already mentioned males here, so you need to either include that or maybe delete that part of the sentence because that makes it a little confusing. Because at first I thought, oh, we're also going to be talking about the restrictions placed on males, but then their thesis completely eliminates it. So it makes it just a little bit confusing and it needs to be tweaked. So, but they did have a really good start, and so I wanted to show you that those first few sentences are a great way to start any type of paper. It's just trying to make that connection to the audience by making statements that maybe everyone has experienced. Let's go down. Number 2. This is a short, sweet paragraph. Americans are often known for their staunch nationalism and the belief that their country is the greatest in the world. Unfortunately, this does not apply to its education system, where, according to the Washington Post, the United States has an intermediate ranking in reading, science, and math. So why is the greatest country in the world so far behind the other developed countries? The American education system lacks resources in comparison to other countries and does not do enough to support those within the system. So this has a good start to it. It kind of starts with a broad statement and then it kind of narrows it down to where it talks about the education system. And they did include a quote in their first paragraph, which is also perfectly fine to do. They would need to format the title. The Washington Post is a publication, so it needs to be put in italics. And it gives us some nice facts right off the bat. Actually, it's not nice or horrible facts because we do not have good ratings in any of this. And so it kind of has a research question in there, which I think is really good. And then it kind of goes into its thesis statement. And I do think the thesis statement could be tweaked a little bit. The American education system lacks resources in comparison to other countries and does not do enough to support those within the system. Like, who are those? Children, teachers, administrators? Like, I feel like the thesis statement needs to be just a little bit more specific, which is addressed later in the paper. But here, I just feel like it needs just a little bit more here to really kind of draw the reader in and let them know exactly what's going to be discussed in the paper. So, moving on. I'm not going to read the whole one of this. It's a pretty long one. Between the years 1692 and 1693, a series of accusations occurred in the village of Salem. a little bit of not checking the proofreading before they turn it in. What was the accusation of witchcraft? Two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, became with unusual fits. They would scream, vomit, report their bodies, complain of snakes in their bellies, and hear whispers of terrible demonic things, and then point out members of the village who would come at night naked or dressed in rags, and so on and so on. I feel like there's almost too much background information. Like, I feel like it draws you in decently well, but it's almost too much. So for this particular student, I would say, okay, let's figure out a way to draw the reader in and then maybe get that more of that background information in the second paragraph. So maybe say something along the lines of, imagine watching helplessly as two young girls scream, vomit, and contort their bodies and complain of snakes and hearing terrible whispers every night. That happened between the years 1692 and 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts, and then I would say the Salem witch trials began, and led to many, many people. Well, I would be specific: 20 people executed, 19 hanged, and 1 tortured to death. This is a story that is very familiar, but their thesis statement is really good. This is a story that most people know, but what they don't know is along with the discrimination, racism, sexism, and blindly following those with power in the name of the church, there may have been another factor to the trials: ergot poisoning. This was actually a really fascinating paper that I mean, I love hearing about the Salem witch trials. I love Halloween stuff and things like that. The whole idea that it could have been a fungus in their brain that maybe they actually, the girls were hallucinating. And that's what the whole paper was about. There's just too much in this first paragraph. In the first paragraph, you want to kind of touch on some things. And students make this mistake a lot where they feel like they need to put like all this information in the first paragraph to try to draw the reader in. If the first paragraph is too long, the reader might actually kind of lose a little bit of interest because they're going to think, oh no, this is going to be like a super long paper, and wow, this is just a lot thrown at me at once. And so I would say maybe cut out some of this information and then put it in a second paragraph or within the paper itself. So again, good start to this, a good thesis statement, but maybe let the beginning be tweaked just a little bit in order so it's not so overwhelming to the reader. This one, in July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested due to suspicion they had sex trafficked teenage girls around 2005. In August 10th, 2019, he was found dead in his cell. 2 of his guards failed to check up on him during the previous 12 hours. There are 2 sides: Epstein killed himself or Epstein was murdered. Epstein's death was not a suicide, it was murder. Okay, so a lot going on with this paragraph. A lot of things that need to be tweaked and fixed and whatnot. First of all, there are a lot of mistakes in here. Right off the bat, I would say what specific date in July was he arrested? Due to suspicion that he had. So Jeffrey Epstein identified as a dude, and so he would want to use the right pronoun there. So he, they would use they. And sex trafficked teenage girls around 2005. Actually, knowing some about this case, it was much longer than that. So the big thing is you have to worry about, especially if you write a paper about a current event or something that your professor actually knows about, is making sure you get the facts straight. And so it's kind of like, you need to check your facts there. It was actually over the course of many, many years. So in August, it would be on August, he was found dead in his cell. In MLA, you spell out numbers under 10. So 2 of his guards failed to check on him during the previous 12 hours. And I don't know, it's just so choppy. There's so much here that just kind of needs to be tweaked in order for it to really draw the reader in. Because when I'm reading this, right off the bat, that first paragraph's a hot mess. I'm going to think the entire paper is going to be a hot mess. And so this was fixable, and it was fixed. Thesis statement's very simple. Actually, it was just really kind of hard to decide. Are you going to discuss the 2 sides of this? Did he kill himself, or was it murder? And then you make a statement. It was not suicide, it was murder. I would probably delete this sentence, this next to last sentence here. Epstein Okay, so just for time's sake, the fifth one. This is one way you can start your paper. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually kind of start your paper with a quote, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are no negatives to eating like this. I feel nothing but positive mentally and physically. I love it. I feel like it also has a kind of domino effect on the rest of my life. Okay, if you don't know who Liam Hemsworth is, then you might not, this quote might not draw you in right away. And once you do know who it is, you're like, well, why are you mentioning Liam Hemsworth? What does that have anything to do with anything that's researchable? So right off the bat, the first word in the paragraph, you see veganism. Okay, cool, but probably this isn't the best quote to use, and this is what I told the student. So I would go with a quote from a health expert here personally, and then two, it doesn't mention vegan anywhere in this first sentence, and so not having the quote but then not realizing what the paper is all about until later, again, you kind of throw the reader off a little bit. So again, nothing wrong with using a quote to start your paper with. It's actually a cool way to draw the reader in, but it has to be the right quote given by the right person in order to get that even with that credibility. So otherwise, they did a decent job with it. So, kind of giving a little bit of background information. Most people who are not on a vegan diet do not realize the risks and benefits of it because a vegan diet is so intense that it affects the body in many ways, both positive and negative. This is okay. I feel like it could be tweaked a little bit more. It's almost a little bit too vague, and so I would probably have them kind of tweak the second part to kind of go into a little bit more specific information as to how it has benefits and what are the risks, and maybe ending it kind of as, people who want to explore veganism have to make that decision for themselves. So this one did take a little bit of tweaking too in that first paragraph. Just to, again, add in that more specific information so that way we can have a better idea what the paper is going to be about. As you are working on these first